match tonight, right?
Yeah, I
Who's it against?
do. You know, it doesn't matter who it's against because you know why?
No.
Because I'm the exterminator, Sylvia Sanchez, and my muscle will take on all these WoW superheroes.
Of course. I don't know who it is. It's Gabriella Cruz and J Boogie.
Oh,
Man, that's gonna be
nothing.
easy night. I ain't even gonna flex. I'm good, guys.
All right.
Let's go.
You know, and we all have our 15 minutes of fame, and I'd like to take a couple of my 15 minutes to talk about the rights and the wrongs in the world of professional wrestling.
And it is for the WWE Championship.
This match is for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship.
The World Heavyweight Championship.
The match and new NWA Heavyweight Champion.
We appreciate you guys coming out and taking your time to support women's wrestling in America.
This match is for the AWA World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship.
Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling Podcast, this abbreviated edition of the Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling Podcast. This is your host, Mr. Green, and in order to get myself back up to speed, as I think as it stands, I'm probably about 2 weeks behind, if not 3. I don't know where I am in this time loop as I'm recording. But I know I'm behind where I would like to be. So in order to get past that, we're going to abbreviate this episode, possibly the next one. Not that I want to, because, I enjoyed trying to find some promos and just a little interlude and some news, stuff like that, just to get the show a little bit of extra oomph. But because it would make it a lot easier for me to have to edit a lot less, I'm going to do that and get back up to speed, and then hopefully we'll return to our normally scheduled version of the program. But as it is, this is going to be a review solid episode. So let us do that. This episode of WoW in review. I know it feels weird to say it this early, but this episode of WoW in review was episode 418, season 4, episode 18, titled Contracts and Confrontation. The air date, February the 7th, and the chronological number 174. And it opened up with a recap of Monsters in Metal and Top Tier, their feud and or match. And it shows Top Tier survive with the titles, essentially. Daisy Lane has seemingly become the voice of Monsters in Metal, and they use that in this particular segment where they have the recap of her saying that Monsters in Metal deserves a rematch for the belts. More or less that Top Tier generally finds a way to survive or get away from them, which I guess that's more or less true. When I was listening to this, I was like, well, how many times have they really been in the ring with Monsters in Metal? The reality of it is that the match that preceded this, unless I'm skipping one, where Monsters in Metal defeated Top Tier in a non-title effort, was shot in 2024. I mean, it literally an entire year passed from that point. And I don't know if they've had a bunch of matches between then. It's not like they traded a couple of victories or this or that, and Top Tier just kind of keeps slipping through their fingers. It seemed like they had it like once or twice, maybe. And even at that one, from what I recall, and I did go through some of my notes, but from what I recall, it was like, the last match was not a case of Yeah, it might have come off as unfair, I guess. But it's not a case that I could also blame Top Tier either. Top Tier was in a position, the end of the match in question had Gloria Glitter in the ring, and she took like 3 different finishing moves in a row. What were the other 2 members supposed to do? They didn't have any other options other than to yank the referee out of the ring. And the fact that he got hit past that point is not Top Tier's fault or, well, I mean, I don't know. I can't even say it's the referee's fault. It just basically the wrong place, wrong time. And you knew that they was going to try to do something. So they yanked him out of the ring. Yeah, it wasn't cool that they did it if we want to, take that route. But again, can we really blame Top Tier for doing that? And I'm far from a defender for Top Tier. I mean, really, that's they don't need me to defend them, nor do I want to defend Top Tier as an entity. I really think that this is just a colossal waste of time with these trios titles to begin with. They have never been anything in my eyes other than vanity belts. However, getting past that, I cannot blame the heels in that scenario. It's not like they went in there and walloped her in the head with a chair or a billy club or a chain or used chloroform or sprayed her eyes with mace or, any of the things that are just blatantly like, what, we're going to do what we got to do to get out of this. No, I mean, they yanked the referee out. The referee got knocked out, which is stupid. But anyway, the referee got knocked out. And then he, once referee number 2 came down, he counts, he says, all right, hey, guys, you won. And the decision got overturned. Although, I don't know, now that I'm really saying it out loud, has WoW ever said that we have a senior referee? Like, this is the person that, when all else fails, we can just go to this person to make the final decision. For that matter, David McClain's standing right out there. Why can't he do it? Anyhow, let's not get started on that. So, all this to say that it's a minor complaint. I just didn't agree with the verbiage that Daisy Lane used that day. Well, they keep slipping by us. Although I guess technically true. The video package that they did to recap this was well done. Again, whether I agree with the verbiage in total or not, it was well done. It should be noted that regardless of what the ratings, I know that don't exist anymore more practically because no one can find them. And regardless of what the WoW management, participants, people in CBS Global or whomever else exists that might have access to the legitimate ratings, regardless of what they say, I am positive that they got a drumming that particular weekend. They probably got trounced like everybody else in the world got trounced. Why? Because it was Super Bowl weekend. The Super Bowl weekend 2026. So, yes, if you caught it on that Saturday airing, if it aired on Saturday in your area, you were probably fine. But that Sunday airing, I'm certain that thing took a beating. But that's neither here nor there. The next segment was the contract signing hosted by Sibley Scoles. Scoles did a much, much better job hosting this than she does being backstage. In fact, I would say that this has probably been her, up to this point, been her highlight. Not that she was running around doing a bunch of stuff. In fact, she was the opposite. She was subdued and like legitimately hosting a contract signing, which was great. She didn't drain the energy out of the room. She didn't talk loud or do ridiculous shit to try to get the attention on her, which some other people have done. The biggest plus in this is that it was not David McClain. And I'm going to say that with all due respect to David McClain, because I don't know the guy. But, he has a way of overdoing certain scenarios. And by overdoing them, gets attention onto himself, opposed to the topic at hand or the subject matter, whatever's going on. He's very animated when he wants to be animated. And it's not to say that he hasn't hosted a contract signing well before, but this was a far better version of that, in my opinion. I can remember, you can go back to David having some confrontation. This is back when Abilene Maverick was the champion. And for whatever reasons, when she dropped the belt, he decided that he needed to pick it up and play tug of war with it for some unknown reason. And I asked then, I wish I could remember what podcast episode that was. Like, what was he grabbing it for? And if he had yanked it out of her hands, what was that supposed to do? She hadn't lost it. So, I mean, was it a case of if I get it, then you lose? Or, I mean, what? He would do things like that. Stuff that's just completely unnecessary just because. Or, let's not throw the great Golden Palace and Nugget Hotel pin away. Stuff like that. It was less of a skit. And I think that's probably the best way I could put it. It was far less of a skit and felt more like a legitimate contract signing. Now, having said that, I also want to just put this out there. Future me, because, I have gone back and watched these things following the next episode. So I do know it's coming up and, around the corner. So I will say future me looks at this now and says that, well, what was the point of this entire segment? I wish I could have reviewed this without having that knowledge. But fact is that I saw it and I do. So I'll try to work around it as much as I can. But yeah, well, the next phase of this is like, well, why? Why did this happen to lead to what we got? But we'll talk about what we got when we get to the next episode, so not to ruin this particular segment here, because I thought that, again, the segment in and of itself on its own was good. The only thing that really just bothered me about this whole thing is that you still had Nigel and David talking through it. If I could have gotten somehow to mute the commentary and just let Sibley do what she was doing, or at the very least, maybe Zane. Have Zane talk about what's going on screen alone. Because when he doesn't have a David to have to acknowledge, then he doesn't beat you over the head with saying his name. But the two of them kind of run it into the ground. He still overuses David just as much as McClain likes to overuse Nigel. And I cannot say it enough. The problem with it, and this is a little sidebar about their commentary. The two of them together are not good. One with somebody else, maybe. McClain with somebody else, no. Because the problem there, and I feel completely vindicated in my opinions about what I said in this commentary 4 years ago. That it doesn't matter who he get there with, because what winds up happening is that whomever is sitting next to him is going to adopt David McClain's style of commentary eventually. Nigel tries. I can give him that. He tries. But at the end of the day, that whole referring to your commentating partner by name as many times as you can, that's a David McClain thing. And you can hear, I mean, sure, Nigel has surpassed him by using David all the time. But listen to David McClain. He does the same thing. Hey, Nigel. I mean, come on. You know, I just saw a video the other day where there was somebody like, when Meltzer voted Booker T the worst commentator in wrestling TV right now. I was like, he clearly has not listened to Wild's commentary. Booker T and Excalibur got the worst. And I'm not fond of of either their commentaries necessarily. I know the guys at work, when they have to deal with the CW, one of them in particular hates Booker T's commentary. He cannot stand it. It's like, that dude is just terrible. So I can understand that he can be grating on the nerves, but the worst, I am. Nigel presents a lot more professionally. That he does better than Booker T. But the restraint of having to say the name of your co-host every opportunity that presents itself, that is where it just, whew. Anyhow, so back to the contract signing. First thing we got here is Scoles is already there. We got the table in the ring. We get Top Tier coming out. Not Candy Crusher, but Coach Campanella. She sits down and she addresses the host, I guess, Sibley. And it essentially says that, I don't even think that we should be doing this. We've already beaten them and this, that, and the other. So, but if it takes this to prove that we're the best team in the world, then fine. And so she agrees. I thought Coach's demeanor for this was perfect. She shouldn't want to sign it. Campanella should not be wanting to give them any of the opportunities to go after the championship. I will also add this much, though. If you're doing a contract signing, that's the time to be adding in whatever stipulations that you want. If you're Coach Campanelli, it should have been, and this is just me, hey, look, this is your one and only opportunity. We are signing this. We're giving you a chance. If you can't pull it off, that's not my problem. Put some stakes on it. Then you have, Monsters and Metal, counteract with whatever they want. But this, again, it's hard to kind of talk about this and not address what's coming around the corner. But in this case, this contract signing, following what we know, feels out of place. But if you're not going off of what happened, then the segment was hosted well by Sibley, treated it serious. Campanelli does well. She gave a good heel promo. Scoles did a good job of setting the table for Monsters and Metal as the baby faces. And aside from the signing in and of itself, I'm like, everything was fine. And even the signing. So we get Top Tier. They all make their signature. Then we, Scoles like, okay, now we got to get the other team to sign. Daisy Lane signs, Fury signs, and then Chainsaw, of course, being the incompetent that she is, looks at the pen like, what is this? And yells or growls, and then she marks her X on it. Which apparently on the other side, they're like, she probably doesn't even know how to use it. Now, we're going to take a quick pause for our logic break, because I'm like, look, if Chainsaw is at a point in her mental capacity that she doesn't understand what a pen is, she probably doesn't need to be winning anybody's championship. That would have been my whole promo. I was like, why would you want that idiot representing this company anyway? She doesn't even understand what a pen is. David, give me a break. You should be sending her to a school somewhere and quite possibly a hospital. How long does it take for them open flesh wounds on her face to heal up? I should have a doctor's note not to be in the ring with her. But, hey, those comments would probably be too mean for a while to use. Anyhow. So she does her little X, and then she growls, and as the baby face, she decides to attack. Which under normal circumstances, like why is she doing this? Because she's supposed to be good. They haven't done anything to her to antagonize this yet. But at the same time, it is Chainsaw, and it does fit her narrative. So I can't be overly mad at it. What I can be overly mad at is what reason did Top Tier just stand there and watch? I mean, just look at the signing. Chainsaw flips the table. She grabs Candy Crush by the throat. Campanelli and Glitter are dumbfounded and standing in the corner as if they don't know what's coming next. Like, what is she doing? What do we do? So we got this invisible barrier there that's preventing them from doing anything to help their friend. They just watch helplessly as she gets choke slammed into the mat. And, of course, that invisible force field disappears the instant that Candy Crush is choke slammed and it's their turn. I mean, Fury and Days Lane didn't even attempt to stop them to prevent Coach and Glitter from intervening because they didn't have to. I don't know what that was about or why they just stood there and just watched this thing take place. I mean, it was ridiculous that they did that, but there they were. They're just, what? I don't know what to do with myself. We're just powerless to help our friend out. Of course, they weren't. They just didn't, which has been an ongoing issue with WoW for some years now. I mean, I don't know why, and I don't know who has the force field generator sitting there in the back room, but they need to tell them to stop it. Hey, look, turn that thing off when we out here. I got to go help my friend out. But they didn't help her out, so they just stood there until it was their turn to take their dual choke slams as well. And there we go. I wrote having a different, non-goofy attention whore of a host made this feel so much better. I will not name names. The next segment. Genesis with Drucilla Blade taking on Ashley Blaze. This starts off with McLean pitching for a random wild shirt that's in the audience. And of course, it is a random wild shirt. I mean, I shouldn't even say random. Let me correct that. Random and generic. It was not anybody's specific shirt. It was just, what was that thing at? It was on their website. And it was like they took that little AI-generated, nondescript wrestler that they have and just stuck it on a shirt. But, again, having somebody in their actual name or likeness on a shirt and actually trying to sell that just seems like it's just too much time and too much effort. Why bother doing things like that? So on to the match. We start this thing off with Genesis accompanied by Drucilla Blade, who does not look intimidating in the least. I know that they're trying to make her intimidating. I'm just not feeling it. The first thing is that she is significantly, significantly smaller than most people that she's been standing next to, including the referee. Then we get her participation or lack thereof in the last match, and then the participation that she gave in this one, which was moderately better, but it did not make me feel like she was the muscle. It made me feel like she was the manager, which does seem to go against the grain of whatever it is that they're trying to sell you. So anyhow, Genesis comes out and they're still doing their thing to try to justify why Genesis, this woman who doesn't need anybody or anything, suddenly needs somebody and something to back her up. And how this is different than having a partner. Well, because she's working for her or whatever. Fuck, I don't know. So why this is because Ashley Blaze is coming out there. They also reference issues between the Dojo Defenders, and they said they'll show footage from last week after the match that the Defenders had against Miami Sweet Heat. That is, I guess that is Ashley Blaze's sole purpose here now is just to be a hanger-on to the Dojo Defenders, apparently, or whatever the case may be. Okay, so the match. It starts off like, for whatever reason, it's looking like Ashley Blaze in the first couple of seconds when she's being backed into the corner or the side of the ring that Drucilla Blade is on, and she's not anywhere near Drucilla Blade. Blade is on the floor, and of course Blaze and Genesis are in the ring. For whatever reason, Blaze looks like she's like overly concerned, like, oh man, don't back me up towards her. Well, what are you doing? That. I don't know what was these nerves around this woman who hadn't done anything yet. Why was she just looking like she was in mortal fear of being near her? But I guess she was trying her best to put the threat of Drucilla Blade in front of everybody so that they'll know that what a dangerous competitor she happens to be. Now, the match, there's no issue that I can recall with the match, and no issue that I can see that I had in my notes with the match. It seemed like it was well done, well executed. Blaze got good reactions for the moves that she performed out of the audience. Blade, gotta make sure I pronounce it right. Blade was more active in this match, but like I said before, she felt more like a manager than she did the muscle. She didn't really do anything that like Alana Starr or Samantha Smart or whomever had been in the managerial role up until this point. She didn't really do anything that was different than what they would do. She just kind of stood around. She voiced her opinion, paced back and forth a bit, intervened every once in a while, and that was about it. I have yet to have seen the benefit that Genesis got from having the Drucilla Blade around. Like the first match that she had her in her corner at all, she didn't even do anything. She just stood there. Genesis won on her own. It's like, what was the point of her having Blade out there? This match, she was more like, there's a spot where Blaze sends Genesis over the top rope and onto the floor. And Blade is like a cheerleader for her at that point. And I was, pretty much like, hey, now you get up, and you can see her talk a bunch of smack. That much you can see. Even though she hasn't done anything to like, justify her talking smack, but yeah, she just talks a bunch of trash. And at some point, Genesis sends her around, and when they're on the floor, she sends her walking around the ring. Why? I didn't understand what she did that for, other than just to come around the other side of her without crossing in front of her. Blaze sees her and gives her a little shove back, and then Genesis takes advantage of it again. And Blade, God, what are these names? And then Blade sits there and she just continues to talk and jaw and whatever. Genesis and her have a little bit of a conversation on the outside. For what reason, I have no idea. Genesis also does a nice step-up leg drop. I don't know if it was invented by Kiera Hogan, but Kiera Hogan was the first person that I seen do it. And she might have had one person that knew how to take that thing well. I believe that she dropped it out of her repertoire because of that. Like, for whatever reason, one person took it well. Everybody else would drop to the mat well before that leg drop came down to force them down. Blaze. See, now I'm getting confused, but Blaze took this thing well. And then she gets into the submission hole, and she's not going to give up because she's the babyface. She's not going to succumb to the submissive powers of Genesis. Genesis the submission hold is then countered, reversed. She's getting her in the arm bar. Genesis is able to get her foot onto the ropes to cause the break. Up until this point, we're probably about a good 4 minutes into the match, maybe. Not a lot out of Drucilla Blade. Other than, like I said, if she was getting points for standing around talking, then she would have racked up a bunch of them. But other than that, nothing. I mean, I did not see or feel any significant efforts that she offered. There is a point in the match where Genesis gets Ashley Blaze in a corner near Blade. She puts her down, and then she backs up and distracts the referee. Then Blade does what every other manager there does. She grabs the wrist of the babyface and she pulls to allegedly have them get choked on the bottom rope. How is this different than any other manager? It's not. She has not been impressive as this weapons expert, this person that's supposed to be, this deadly fighter or whatever she proclaimed to be. None of that has been shown. And it doesn't feel like it was ever going to show. And I'm not sure if it's, even with the efforts that she gave here, I'm not sure that we can say that she did show it. It's just, what are they trying to do with her? I don't understand. And WoW has been doing these things for a while. And I know it hasn't worked yet. No one's no one's gotten over it. No one's become a star. So why are we still in the narrative of, it doesn't matter how we present these people. People are just like them. Anyhow, there's a point in the match where we get Blaze, who is attempting a TKO. Genesis is able to get out of it on her own power, mind you. So I'm not even sure if Blaze was distracted. But she gets out of that, and she hoists Blaze up on her shoulders and then does a little roll through. She thinks that's going to be it. She goes 1, 2, and then she's able to get a shoulder up. It's like, oh my, I can't believe it. She kicked out of it. That's the look that Genesis gives. So one thing I can say that Ashley Blaze does arguably better than any other babyface that's there. Her facial expressions do tell her story. You have to give her that. She, when she's looking to struggle and she's fighting to get back up to her feet and grimacing to pull herself through, she's that much you cannot take away from her. She sells it. So she does that. She gets up. She gets up in the corner where Blaze gets up in the corner where Blade is. And Blade gets up and takes just a random swipe at her head. And that she missed. I mean, clearly it wasn't intended to hit her, so we'll just go with that. And then Blaze runs across the ring. She does like a step up the ropes in the corner. Comes down with a drop kick off of the second. Tries to get the cover in on Genesis, but it ain't enough. Or it might have been enough, but Blade stops it. She grabs her ankle and pulls her out. Or kind of halfway out. Ashley Blaze kicks Drucilla Blade off. I am trying my best not to blur these words. And Blade does basically the same thing. She once she's kicked off and she's shoved into the guardrail, she just kind of stands there and looks like she's about to start talking some trash again. Licks her teeth and like grr. You cannot tell me that she does not look like she's supposed to be a vampire. I'm sorry. I'm probably going to say that anytime that I see this woman. I was like, seriously, she ain't? So, well, just give her the fangs. I mean, we know that the Wild loves doing stuff like that to begin with. So why not? So anyhow, she gets shoved off into the ropes. That's enough of a distraction. Genesis hits a tornado kick. 1, 2, 3. There we go. I'll reiterate. I'm not impressed with Drucilla Blade at all. That might not be her doing. That might not be her fault. But I'm not impressed with it. They built her up to be something that she's not. If she's a weapons master, again, what difference does it make? How's that applicable to WoW? She didn't do anything that no other manager there would do. And you can go down the line. Lopez, Lana Starr, Samantha Smart, Campanelli when she plays the role of a manager. What did Drucilla Blade do that would lend her to being something other than just another manager? Anyhow, the perk of the match is that the match wasn't bad. If you remove the idea that they tried to portray Blade as something dangerous, this probably would be a lot more palatable. The match in and of itself is fine and is palatable as is. Only the narrative of Blade kind of makes it like, what is this for? But if we get past that, these three made it very clear who was the babyface and who was the heel throughout the match. And I do appreciate that. And I'm not going to sit and say that the match is bad. The match is fine. The narrative is bad. But the narrative is almost always bad. Next segment. Catalina Speed. Backstage accepts Veronica VaRoom's offer. Now they sound as if they don't know if the offer was to be a partner or the offer was to be a manager. The two of them do look like they could be a team, just different colors, but a similar dress code, we'll call it that. And I'm sure that was no accident, and the connection feels like it happened relatively quickly, and I'm almost positive it was because, hey, they got a similar gimmick. She's Veronica VaRoom. This is Catalina Speed. They should be together. Why do we have to keep doing this? If there's anybody there that has a gimmick that is even remotely the same, they'll probably be paired off at some point in time. Speed and VaRoom. There you go. It's kind of like, hey, if you come in as you're Latina, then you got to be paired off with Sofia Lopez because who else could manage you? You know, stuff like that. We get another blonde woman in here that's full of herself, then she's going right into the Fab Four. And so on and so on. As long as the gimmick matches, you're together. There you go. You're a team now. Do you think? So we have that. And it felt like to me that they were trying to leave the option open of, well, we might not want her to be a manager. We might need her to be a tag partner, but maybe we want her to be a manager, so let's not close the door on that either. Just, you know, there was no surefire direction that they were going with this. Neither did it matter because the match that happened following this. And, man, if there is a wild thing that happens, it's this match. Good grief. Anyway, next segment. Catalina Speed with Veronica VaRoom. Vicious Veronica VaRoom. Ugh. Versus Kalaki, the Island Girl. Now, we know that Kalaki's lost her original partner because Tiki Chamorro has gone off and she started a family. Congratulations to her. But Kalaki, she's got a new partner. How do I know that? Because randomly while this match is coming up, he's like, Dave McClain I can't wait to see Destiny Diesel without any rhyme, reason, or explanation. This is when Kalaki's coming out there. Now, granted, if you've seen the show, you might recall that Destiny Diesel and Kalaki the Island Girl tagged up. Despite the fact that it's probably been a couple of weeks now, but you might remember that. The part that gets me is that there's probably a fair amount of people that had no idea what he was talking about. Just out the blue. I can't wait to see Destiny Diesel in a match that does not have Destiny Diesel there at all. She wasn't out there to watch her partner's back. Wasn't on the screen, didn't walk into the stage, did nothing. She was like just brought her up for whatever reasons. I don't know how it gets off track in their commentary. I mean, I'm sure all these marathon tapings that they do not help. But, man, you know, it's moments like that. It's like, this is not a good commentary team. And it probably leans more on David being there than anything, but this is not a good commentary team. Zayn puts Kalaki in veteran status alongside Natty Neidhart and Michelle McCool, and I wrote, why Michelle McCool? And I have, up until she got on everybody's nerves in recent years, I had generally advocated for Michelle McCool. Nah, that's not to say that I was like, yeah, she should be in the Hall of Fame, or, you know, or yeah, she should take over this podcast and kick the Undertaker's part. Well, no, I'm not big on, you know, those things. However, I mean, I felt that she was talented. I don't know if I would put her, yes, she's a veteran. I can't deny that. I don't know if that's the name that would have come out of my mouth along with Natty Neidhart. And then McClain puts Neidhart over, which was shocking to me. Like, Neidhart training for young talent and whatnot. We appreciate what you do. And I was like, you do? Holy cow, I'm shocked. I would believe it more if he actually went and hired somebody that she trained. Maybe he did. I don't know. So, yeah, they put Neidhart over. Like I said, I'm surprised that McCool's name got thrown in there, but whatever. But Zayn does attribute Kalaki for being a veteran, for knowing to put her hands up when she's being punched. I was like, that has got to be the stupidest example of being a veteran that you could possibly pick. You see how she got those hands up, David? That's a sign of a veteran. I was like, seriously? You need to be a veteran in order to start to block a punch coming to your head? Oh, boy. That happened later on in the match. I'm getting ahead of myself with that note, but it just tickled me. I was like, why would that be a sign of veteran status? You know, that's like that guy knew not to jump off of that 12-foot ladder. I mean, you know, because he might get hurt, and only veterans know that. Simple nonsense. All right, so let's get back to the match. You know, like I said, I'm a little bit out of sequence with that because, you know, that was on my notes and I just had to say it. So we get let's just call them the tag team of VaRoom and Speed, because I'm pretty sure it is just a matter of time before they get to the point where they're tagging up. They come out together. They both got their, I don't know, racing jackets, short shorts, not color coordinated, but they're close. You know, they're on opposite ends of the spectrum. They got to do their wild, let's come out and pose deal. Come out here and pretend that we're driving something and pose back to back with each other, because, you know, if you're a wild girl, coming out here without any sort of entrance and standard pose is just, you know, illegal. Cannot be done. So they came in and they did it at the ramp, and they do the same thing once they get into the ring. I wrote, is Kalaki a heel? Not Kalaki, Catalina. You know, they got a lot of names that run and sound the same. Anyhow, I wrote, is Speed supposed to be a heel now? Because before this point, she wasn't portrayed as a heel. She was portrayed as a babyface. And it seems like all it really took to change her mind was Veronica VaRoom coming up and like, hey, you know, I think I can do something with you and I can make you a champion. Now, why on earth she would be able to do that all of a sudden and out of the clear blue, I don't know. But I guess Speed was going with it. Sure, you can make me a champion. Even though you haven't done it for yourself or anybody else, we'll just go with that. So, Kalaki comes out, and like I said, is being put over that she's a veteran. These matches do remind me of just how short a wild match will be on occasion. I mean, it's like between 4 and 5 minutes on the average when we're talking bell to bell. Once you remove the entrances and whatnot. Once the match started, there is a point that looks like they got a little bit sideways with each other, like trying to come out of the corner. It seemed a tad awkward until they got things smoothed out. But they did get it smoothed out, and they started working. VaRoom is running around outside, and she's doing what Veronica VaRoom does. Just, much like Blade, just kind of running around yelling stuff and throwing attitude and just there, which is yet another reason why I'm like, well, what did Drucilla Blade do that would lend me to believe that she was some sort of dangerous entity? Veronica VaRoom is doing the exact same act, not but a segment or two later. Coming out here, walking around, yelling, and, you know, intervening. Now, her intervention was not as smooth, apparently, but she did try. Speed, it works a little bit more aggressively in this match. She's putting her foot up on Kalaki's throat. She's showing a little attitude towards the referee. They do the old same thing that every heel has to do. Catalina gets Kalaki on the second rope, which means that VaRoom has to instantaneously sit next to her so that they can pose, because every heel has to do that. Why does every heel have to do this? Never mind the fact that I think Monsters of Metal does it too, because Fury has to do her little headbanger ball thing. Why is there such a thing here? Give it to one person and be done with that. Everybody does not need to put their opponent on the second rope and pose. And then following that, VaRoom did the exact same thing that Drucilla did, like I said, a segment ago. I'm going to grab your wrists and I'm going to yank down on them because this is how I interfere. Because I can't make it look like I'm choking you for real by holding the back of your head and bringing it across the ropes. We'll just do it this way. Everybody does that. Every manager, every sidekick, every valet, they all do that. All of them. Which makes me dislike Blade even more because it just comes off as being worthless. And I know I shouldn't be talking about her in this match because we already had her in the previous segment, but I just can't help it. Anyhow, Speed tries to go for a win. Of course, she doesn't get that. I don't think the match needs to be called by the full-on play-by-play, so let's get to the important meat of the matter. There's a portion of the match where Veronica VaRoom stands on the entranceway side of the ring. All right? This is after Speed charges at full speed, no pun intended, at Kalaki in the corner. She misses and just throws herself into the steel post. Now, I don't even know that if that amounted to anything because it's not like she got up selling the shoulder. In fact, I would say that probably went away within seconds. Kalaki then takes the advantage, does a little combination on her, hits her with her barrel roll power slam. And this is where VaRoom takes her position so they could do their spectacular screw up. So VaRoom, for whatever reason, decides to turn her back to accomplish this leg trip, which, we've seen that done a couple of times by a couple of wrestlers. They just make it look a little bit smoother than that. So there's a portion of this where as VaRoom is standing there with her back turned, Kalaki and Speed are what they used to call jockeying for position. They're doing reversals, one after the other, trying to send the other person to the ropes. Kalaki gets that, and then Speed is tripped by VaRoom. She gets up like, what are you doing? Why did you trip me? And whatever. VaRoom's outside mad, and she's banging on the mat like, I can't believe I screwed up. A kick in the guts and we'll just call it a snapmare driver. And Kalaki sends Speed down to the mat. Face first. Boom. Of course, that was not the end of it because she had to go through this long, drawn-out finishing move that she does. Man, this is the most non-urgent finishing move I have ever seen. I mean, I like Kalaki. I like Tracy Taylor. But this thing is just... If you try to tell people that I have no concern about whether or not this girl is going to get out of it or if the other one on the outside is going to do anything to stop me, this is it. Why have they not just taken that driver and used that as the finish? That would have been fine. Boom. She's done. She's down. 1, 2, 3. Quick cover, quick pin, over and done with. Instead, what we get is we get the driver, and then she has to get laid down and get on top of her back, surf, then gingerly grab her wrists, and then curb stomp her to the mat, and then go for the cover. It takes so long. No one is ever going to believe that she's going to win an important match doing all of that. If she'd have just done that little driver and covered her quick, 1, 2, 3, you would have changed the perception of Kalaki and who she is and what she's doing, because then she could get you out of nowhere. But here is just, let me just waste some time. And that's how it comes off to me. It's just like, let me waste some time. This is not the first time that I've said this, because she's done this before. Of all the moves, and I can only assume, I hope that I'm right. I can only assume that somebody there told her to do this because, man, it looked good for TV. I'm going to say the opposite. It does not. It does not look good for TV. And if there's anything that shows you that this is just a waste, well, I don't want to say a waste of time. That's probably not the right description of this. But if there's anything that was going to happen within the course of this match to let you know that this match is not important or I'm not concerned about it, that little sequence at the end. You cannot possibly be concerned about trying to get a win and get out of there by doing what she just did. I will repeat before moving on, it is the least urgent finish I've ever seen. Next segment is a recap of the Dojo Defenders versus Miami Sweet Heat, and recaps how the Defenders lost. And just for those who don't remember, it was because Kai decided to tag herself in, even though that Terror Strike had it under control and possibly the pin. Then they got in an argument with each other. Lindsay just walked across the ring and shoved them into each other with, the greatest of ease. And then picks Kai up and sets her up for the Fab Jab. 1, 2, 3. They were done. And that was more for the Defenders than it was Sweet Heat. Sweet Heat is off doing, I guess they've moved on to their next thing, whatever their next thing happens to be. The segment after that is where they added on some more narrative of the Dojo Defenders saga. And this is what David McClain was talking about earlier. Like, we got footage of what happened last week. Well, this is what happened. They had their backstage segment / argument. They both blame each other for spending too much time with Sandy Shore / Ashley Blaze, respectively. It is amazing to me that they somehow have made them both take blame in this scenario, when it started off with Kai not concerned about their tag title shot. But now it's like, well, if you didn't spend so much time with Blaze, that victim blaming thing is, who is writing this nonsense? Who is writing this? Because it's like the second or third time that they've taken the victim blaming route. Like, whatever the person did wrong is, oh, well, you did this first, or something stupid along those lines. Or it's like being ignored, beaten up, or whatever the case may be, isn't a big enough crime for me not to come crawling back. And they didn't come crawling back in this case, but is going the opposite way. It's the victim blaming thing. Now I have every faith that they'll probably kiss, make up, shake hands, hug, whatever the case may be, somewhere down the line, because that's what superheroes do. But where is this going? Where is this going? Never mind the fact that now the Blaze deal is just going too far. Yes, they start off blaming each other. And even though I think Kalaki has turned this into victim blaming, like, well, you did such and such, even though it was very clear and evident that she was the problem. She was the problem. There's no getting around that. She was the problem. But even though that was the way that it started off, is not where it's finishing up. It is now turning into, well, they both have an arguable point. And then Ashley Blaze pops up out of nowhere. Say her name and she will appear. I believe in... See, anyway. Blaze. They may as well just do that. I believe in Ashley Blaze, but not in this particular case. At this point, I'm like, I agree with Kai. And it's a shame that this segment made me like agree with the person that I'm not supposed to agree with. She comes out of nowhere trying to be the real, hey, guys, come on, chill out and slow down. And then Kai's like, see, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Mind your own business, Blaze. Now, she did it over dramatically, whipping her hair at her and whatnot. That part was a little bit, again, over dramatized, overacted, however you want to call it. But she ain't wrong. At this point, I'm like, look, I appreciate whatever that is that you're trying to do, but mind your business. This is between me and her. Why you keep walking in here trying to, hey, guys, what's going on? Hey, don't do that. It's getting to the point where it's going to make Ashley Blaze annoying. And I like Ashley Blaze, but she does not need to just randomly pop up every time the Dojo Defenders do something. And that's been basically the case for about a couple of weeks now. Her partner not there. Hey, what's going on? What are you doing? Okay, that was fine. Comes back in the locker room after she wins the match. Okay, that's fine. Then you got the other one with before their match, and Sandy Shore pops up. And then Ashley Blaze comes out of nowhere. That was questionable. Now it's just getting annoying. Like, why are you here? So I hope that they chill out on that. I mean, she's part of the story, obviously. So we know that she's not going to go away entirely. But for goodness sake, I sincerely hope that she does not just keep popping up whenever the Dojo Defenders do or say something. Next segment. Sibley Scoles is interviewing Lil J, Boogie and Gabriella Cruz. Boogie and Cruz. Cruz and Boogie. It's probably why they put them together anyway, just because of their names. They aren't good at promos. Neither one of them acknowledged their opponents are dangerous or threatening. Boogie said that they were going to dominate their opponents. And all right. Let me settle myself down. Okay. So this goes out to J Boogie. I hope someone has said this. If not, maybe you'll hear it here. Don't make promises that you cannot keep as a babyface. Had that been me and I had time to sit there and provided that they weren't just rushing me to get promos shot. Had it been me, I said, do it over. Do this over. You know you're doing the job today. You know you're not going to dominate. Don't use those terms. Say something that works towards the match. without you saying something that you full well cannot pull off. So let's not use dominate. Secondly, I'm convinced now that she cannot do a promo of any sort without saying moves and grooves. It's all I remember her ever saying. Well, because we're going to get down, we're going to dominate, and with her speed and my moves and grooves, like every time, my moves and grooves. I don't know how that's supposed to help in a match. I mean, maybe if it was a dance-off, sure, but outside of that, what do these moves and grooves account for anything? Here's the other problem. I was like, why are you leaving Gabriella Cruz to finish off the promo? Do it in reverse. Cruz is her, to no fault of her own, her English is too rough to drive the point home. You probably need to have somebody who can conduct the interview and direct the conversation so that it will end up with some usable stuff. B, Cruz needs to start it. C, you end it with J Boogie and you give her stuff to say. And that's the other thing that you need to tell her if she don't hear this herself. Have something to say. Practice the promo. It doesn't have to be moves and grooves every goddamn time you open your mouth. Something else. So, Shotwell, Sibley does fine. I mean, she really couldn't conduct this. But it's words without content. It's just them talking. Here, my friend, we're going to go and we're going to have fun together. And, me and my moves and grooves, and we're going to dominate and blah, 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 blah. It's just, it's nothing. It's nothing. It's a generic promo that you probably could have applied to anybody because they didn't treat it any differently than they would anybody else. It probably should have at least put the heels over as something dangerous and we're going to do it. We're going to get past them because we're going to try such and such this, that. We have every intention of winning this match because we're going after the gold or the silver, whatever you want, however you want to describe it. Make it known what you're a team for other than goofing off with each other. And this should be the first hurdle or whatever the case. I mean, there's 1,000 ways to do that promo and have something to say within that promo. But here is always moves and grooves. It's like she never gave a second thought to another word. Bad promo. Moving on. Next segment is the promo for next week's episode, which is Animal Instinct versus Xena Phoenix and Sierra Sands. Where's Xena Phoenix been? What happened to her being this great partner for Kalaki, which apparently she's going to need a partner the way that the Dojo Defenders thing is going. Well, maybe she won't. Like I said, they'll probably make up in somewhere down the line. I'm sorry too. Let's go get them. I'm sure that'll happen. And the next segment, the main event, the Alliance, represented by Reina Del Rey and Sylvia Sanchez, my lovely Sylvia Sanchez, taking on Gabriella Cruz and Lil J Boogie. So, McLean starts with saying Gambino did a good job putting the team together. I wrote down, weren't they already together? I mean, she added Sanchez to the mix, but the rest of them were already there. Gambino, BK Rhythm, and Gianni. Well, I shouldn't say Gambino, but BK Rhythm and Gianni were already there. Del Rey was already there. There was already a Gambino in the group, but she's gone, and she's doing her WWE tryout. Good luck to her. Who is no longer a Gambino, but Valentina Rossi again. After dropping the NWA Tag Team Championships. Sad for that, but good for the tryout. So, yeah, McLean says that she did a good job putting this team together. Don't know why I said that again. Probably should have been more descriptive. The babyface team, they shouldn't be scared, but they also never seem concerned at all. That's been one of my big down points with J Boogie from the start of her being there till now. Like, regardless of what the circumstances were, like how many people stand on the other side of the ring, she'll just go dance right by them, smiling and doing everything else and not really show any level of concern to what they might do. I mean, this is a theoretically 2-on-5 situation. Not a shred of concern or treating it serious. I mean, every once in a while, the demeanor needs to change. Every once in a while, you need to change the demeanor to fit what is going on in front of you. And it didn't come off like she was even attempting to do that. But she hasn't attempted to do it previously. I can remember when she was part of the Brat Pack for the brief period that she was in it, being used, allegedly. And when they kicked her out and she was going to get even with them and going to have their return match because Lord knows the Brat Pack had to job out to everybody. But when she came into the ringside area, she pretty much literally danced by them with a big smile on her face. Not concerned that they were going to jump her again or anything. And here, you've got what is essentially portrayed as the dominant members of the Alliance. Del Rey has already been established as the muscle. Sanchez has been presented as their exterminator, which in their universe means that she's a bad something. But that didn't change a thing for these two. Came down smiling with the headdress and the boom box and got to pose on the apron and, do the little thing and do my B-boy stance on the ropes, give heart symbols and whatnot. And then we got, and that much I can at least tolerate. I can tolerate the coming out there and maybe sitting on the apron and dancing, and standing on the ropes and whatnot. And then they go off into doing the Macarena or whatever they was doing. At that point, I was hoping that they just got plowed from the back with clotheslines and squashed within 30 seconds because of that stupidity. I wanted that, but that's not what I got. So it was, they allowed them to finish their dance, and then we got the match itself. Now, I will say for the sake of them not attacking the referee was standing in front of Del Rey and Sanchez. So, in this particular instance, he did stand there and block them from going off and attacking those two. This referee, just by the way, I mean, he must have taken off wrestling himself that weekend. I mean, that guy looked like he needed to be in the ring on his own. He ain't a great referee, I can tell you that. I mean, physical shape, yes. Probably working this on the weekend in between his own matches, I assume. But yeah, I mean, he just kind of stood around, not doing all that much. All right, so the match begins with Del Rey trying to match up with Gabriella Cruz. Cruz does some evasive maneuvers. Rolls through. Del Rey looks annoyed. Rolls through again. She looks even more annoyed. Cruz jumps up, gets a headlock on her, turns that into a front face lock. Del Rey casually chucks her across the ring. Which I will say, that got a good pop out of the room. So I did hear somebody like, ooh, so that did get some response. Her dusting her shoulders off, that only just kind of added insult to injury. So Cruz, after that quick chuck, rolls through again and evades Del Rey and then tags off to J Boogie, who, wouldn't you know it, in this situation, decides to show some seriousness and goes in there and attack. Nope. Decides that I got to get in here and dance. Because why? Moves and grooves. It was it. Good grief. Why? Del Rey tags out to allow Sanchez in there. It looked like Sanchez wanted to get in, so she just, let her do that. And we get a little bit of exchange between Sylvia Sanchez and Lil J Boogie. Just a change of holes and hammerlocks and whatnot. Sanchez backs Boogie up towards the ropes. Del Rey gives her a smack across the back. And it didn't look like it hurt Boogie at all. She was like, huh, what was that? I was like, man, come on. It's not even going to sell pain. She just looked like a fly hit her or something. Like, huh? What, somebody throw some paper at me? What's going on? But it was enough of a distraction that Sanchez tosses her into the turnbuckle. But still, man, come on, it's Del Rey. She just hit her in the back. Why was she just like, what was that? And not only what was that, it was like, why did you do that? Jeez. Anyhow, so within seconds, that little smack in the back meant nothing because she just regained control immediately after she went into the turnbuckle, just like nothing ever happened. And then, as you know, had to break out another dance routine just because. It's not like she had gotten the people on her side yet, but still. It should also be noted that for the first time, because you knew it had to happen, that Gambino had to sit down and sit next to David McClain. Because why? Because David said so. Now, the only thing that makes it even palatable is that she at least stood out there for one of the matches already. We're not going to count the one that she was actively in. But at least she did attempt to manage once. I am hoping that it is not going to turn into some regular thing that every time she walks out like the other Gambino, then I'm just going to turn around and just walk off and sit here in the commentating booth and talk. But, we're not going to dwell on that right now. So, where were we? Cruz gets tagged in after Boogie does her seated leg lariat on Sanchez. Sanchez wants to get the tag, but she can't get out. Del Rey does the reach out thing, like, when they tried to do their little tandem move on her partner, they whipped her close. Well, not close enough. They whipped her close enough to, I guess, tease that she could have gotten there. But that didn't happen. And the same thing happened with Cruz whipping Boogie across towards her. Well, I guess not towards her, but towards her opponent, Sanchez, in the corner. It wasn't until Boogie was running towards the ropes and she happened to see one of them reaching to grab her feet. I think it might have been both of them. And, of course, she was too fast for him now. She skipped over it. She saw them and was able to evade it. But then she turned around and walked into a sidewalk slam by Sanchez. Sanchez puts her down, and now the heels are in control. She gets a chin lock, and this is probably the first time that it even remotely looked like she was taking this match seriously, because she had to grimace because of the pain. Sanchez takes Boogie's head and slams it right into the foot of Del Rey, who has it propped up on the top turnbuckle. She gives her a big chop. And that made Boogie slide down. Del Rey gave her some knees, gave her a knee in the corner. I don't remember if it was multiple times, but it was enough to certainly drive a point. And some forearm shots. And good on Del Rey for taking control of this thing and making her actually look like something hurt. She did a twisting armbar and slammed her down face first into the mat. As she was trying to get out, Del Rey makes the tag, holds on to Boogie, and then Sanchez comes down and does a senton across the back. The heels are in control. And they maintain control on Jay Boogie. Jay Boogie. Say the name right. I'll give that much. I got to do the name right. And you can pretty much go through the next couple of minutes of seeing Sanchez and Del Rey in control of Boogie, including Del Rey hoisting Boogie up and giving her or providing her the tree of woe in the corner. This lets Del Rey get a good shot in on her, but more importantly, it was more like a splash. More importantly, Sanchez comes in there and gives her a good drop kick right in the mouth, which I am relatively sure that thing connected for real. Hey, look, I'm not relishing in anybody's pain or what have you. I mean, but it is wrestling, and some of those things are probably prone to happen. So anyway, Sanchez is in control up until she tries to charge in on Boogie, and Boogie gets the foot up. She tries to do it again. Boogie gets both of them up. And then she tries it for a third time. Boogie gets her legs around the head of Sanchez, which is not a full-on hurricanrana, but it is enough to pull her head into the turnbuckle. She tries to make the tag, but fortunately, Del Rey had gotten around and yanked Cruz off of the apron so that the tag could not be made. Sanchez then regains control. Excellent. So now we have Boogie trying to fight from underneath. I'm sure they were trying to get the heat on Boogie here. Boogie fights from underneath, tries to crawl through the legs of Sanchez to get to a partner. Sanchez is able to stop it, but she's then kicked off, and now you got Gabriella Cruz coming in like a house of fire. And she's pummeling Sanchez as much as she can. Arm drags, is moving quick. Look, I am not going to sit here and say that Cruz or, is incapable or not good at what she does. She is, and I'm for she's very capable. Now, I do think that this next segment but this next spot that they had in there kind of went off a little. It wasn't as smooth as it could have been. This is when Gabriella Cruz, as the legal woman, gives an X Factor or a face plant to Sanchez. Del Rey comes in to break it. The referee is yelling, "Hey, get out!" And pretty much nothing past that point. He just yells, "Get out!" And then he walks over to Boogie, who's sitting there, like, "Hey, you, get out too." Del Rey tries to charge at Cruz. It looks like she was trying to give her some time to get up and do what she needed to do for the next spot. So as soon as she got up to do it, you knew that it was coming and she was just going to go flying over the top rope. And once Del Rey was on the floor, Sanchez gets tossed out on the floor. So we all knew what was coming up next. They all gathered together out there on the floor, all four of them. And then Gabriella Cruz takes a run and flip and knock them all down like bowling pins. I will repeat what one of my coworkers said at that point. And he wasn't knocking the move because he's like, look, I get what she was doing. I understand that. But wouldn't all four of them, and with that short of a run and speed, been able to just catch her? And I was like, because in his mind, it's not like she came off of the top rope and had gravity on the side, or she ran and hit full throttle and came off. She probably ran all of 2 feet on the apron and just kind of jumped off on him. And there is merit to what he said, because it's not like it was, I don't even think that she ran. She just kind of jumped. And it did look good. And I understand the spot. But he ain't wrong because he's not a wrestling fan and he doesn't, not watch it. To the average set of eyes, it would look like all four of them should be able to catch this woman, especially with Del Rey there. But that didn't happen. Rhythm, Gianni, Del Rey, and Sanchez are all out on the floor, which didn't really do anything of any note to Sanchez, because once she got tossed back into the ring and Boogie tried to attack her, which I'm not sure why she tried to attack her. Was she legal? Sanchez just caught the clothesline and turned it into a neckbreaker and put it down. Then Cruz gets back into the ring, and she catches her with a tornado DDT. And then she tries to go after Del Rey. Del Rey hoists her out, puts her over the ring, and this out to the ring apron, I should say. And this is the other thing that got a good pop in the room, is that after the enziguri on the outside, and she tried to springboard in, and Del Rey just kind of walks up to her and shoves her down. She's over and done. Boogie charges across the ring, and she gives Del Rey the enziguri to the back of the head, which sends her into the corner. And here's the spot where I was like, I don't know what Boogie was supposed to be doing there. What was supposed to be accomplished in this particular spot? And I will admit that I took great joy in this particular spot. Boogie walks over to Del Rey in the corner like finger wagging. I was like, what is she doing? Why it's like she was going over there to chastise her, like, how dare you do that to me, or whatever she was trying to do. And as if she had forgotten that A, she was in the middle of a match, and B, I forgot, she is bigger and taller and stronger than I am. Like the second Del Rey turns around, as this woman is coming over there to give her a piece of her mind, I guess, she turns around and then she instantaneously like, oh, wait a minute, she is big. Let me back up. And then she backs up into Sanchez. Sanchez just kind of like walks up behind her and just gives her a shove into Del Rey. And then they proceed to beat her up. As they should have. And the heel announcer in me was like, good. Beat her up and send her out there and knock this nonsense off. Finish this match. So now Boogie is down. Cruz is on the floor. And she's cornered by both BK Rhythm and Gianni. Referee is just kind of standing around. Like I said, he did at the beginning of this thing because he didn't do anything. He just kind of like, all right, guys, what are you doing? Hey, chill out now. Don't do that. I mean, it's one thing when we used to have the refs that would just sit there and wave their arms incessantly like nothing. But like even when they was beating her up, he just like, hey, guys, come on. Now you can't do that. I mean, he had the look of authority in his face that just ain't listening to him. And then you got Cruz that gets tossed into the ring to basically the same effect. Now she comes in, tries to attack one, gets caught by Del Rey, and then gets a high-low hit while the referee's just kind of standing there watching them both. And then he counts 3. And that was that. I mean, first off, good that the Alliance actually won one. Or that they won another. I think this is probably like the second time that they did it. When we've seen them lose so many times. Now all they got to do is get the Brat Pack on track and then maybe they can get somewhere. So there they are with that. They took their beating with their version of a high-low. Gambino cuts a promo following the match, and it was a good promo, and it would have meant more if I hadn't seen them lose already. Which is yet another reason why I'm like, I hate those trios championships, because it caused the Alliance to have to be sacrificed. Because there ain't nobody else in that division for the babyfaces to have beat. So, yeah, I mean, look at the only issue that I have with this Gambino, I'm sorry to say it, she does not look like a very authoritative person. I could buy the daddy's little girl thing. But the part that made it difficult to take that fully is that she was willing to get into the ring like, I'm tough, without the element of being the cowardly manager or being the manager that thinks they're tough or tougher than what they actually are and need to hide behind the muscle or the mouth or the fashionista or whatever. She just got in there and did it without any provocation or what have you. So the promo would have meant a lot more to me if they hadn't already suffered a loss. But they did, so it was like, all right, well, we're kind of starting over with this. Gambino, if she's going to be there, and there's no way that you can age her up, that's just got to come with time, then they need to feed into that daddy's little girl thing and make her believe that she's tough. But it's just through the power of her father's influence and money that she's able to have what she has. She should just be the girl that woke up on third base that thought that she hit a home run. You know what I mean? That would make more sense to me. She talks a good talk, and maybe it'll start to fill out as time goes on. But that's all that I get from her right now is she's a reasonable promo within the context of being the character, I guess, that she's trying to portray. But she also looks like, hey guys, we got to hurry up and get this done. I got to go to school in the morning. Seriously, she just looks like such a baby face. And I don't mean baby face in the good guy way. I just mean like she just has a baby face. And that's the only way that I can get past her having that baby face is if that were being played up to some degree. Outside of that, I was like, you need to be in the audition room for High School Musical 10 or something. This was not as good as the previous episode reviewed. To me. It's not terrible. Not. I won't even go so far as to say that it's bad. But it does feel like I am walking in the steps of everything that I've dealt with a while before. And I'm starting to feel like this is taking me right back in that direction. Like it is only a matter of time before the overwhelming stupidity starts kicking in. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I hope I'm wrong. But I also feel like I say this every year. I hope I'm wrong. We had a good episode here, guys, but I hope they can keep it going. It's like they'll do one or two, and then it just starts to drift off into stupidity. I expect the Dojo Defenders to be at the front line of that. Their angle is tailor-made for stupidity. Drucilla Blade is the front runner right now of just nonsense. But we will see where that goes. It has its holes, like I said with the one previous to this. These episodes have their holes, but it gives me a small level of hope that it could improve. And I say a small level, as I am not certain that they are going to make that work. Time will tell. And that is our abbreviated version of our review this week. I want to thank you for tuning in to this. And what I'm doing is hopefully I can go crank out another one, so I can get this show back in line with what's going on in a while. About 5 to 6 days behind, hopefully. If you are listening to this on YouTube, please do the YouTube things, like, share, subscribe. Leave your comments and whatever messages that you may do. I haven't done any polls lately, but it's only because to do all of those things, it does take up some time coming off of work and all that stuff. But anyway, I might get back to it. We'll see. I do have some stuff that I need to put up there, so working on that. But back to the point. Like, share, subscribe if you listen to this on YouTube. If you're catching this on a podcast, because we are available on greater podcast platforms everywhere, then ratings will help. If you don't know where to get any of this stuff, you know what you can do? That's right. WPNWrestling.com is the place to go for all of these things. The videos, the podcast. The videos run 24 hours a day. 7 days a week. It is its own little stream with videos dating back to 2013, with faces that you know, faces that you've seen, faces that have gone on to bigger and better things across multiple promotions. I won't go into all of them right now, but you've seen their faces. One of them you saw on this show tonight. That being Fury. But moving on. So there's a plenty ways to catch up to us. Never mind the fact that we got the little podcast widget down there. If you scroll through all the hours of podcast content, I couldn't believe that I did that many. I honestly couldn't. I was like, good grief. Have I been covering WoW this long? And I guess the easy answer is yes, I have. And I will continue to cover it so long as I'm able. and I have the willpower to do it. I will admit, there have been days. I'm like, why am I watching this show? Why am I watching this show? They haven't beat me down this season yet, but we will see where that goes. So in closing, this is Mr. Green saying that this is Mr. Green saying so long, and we will see you on the next go round. Take care, everybody.
Hey yo, I'm Lil J Boogie.
I'm Gabriella Cruz.
And we're gonna wrestle the Alliance. I know that they are a little bit bigger than us, but we thrive under pressure. With my moves and grooves and her amazing jiu-jitsu moves, we're gonna dominate in that ring. With my moves and grooves and her amazing jiu-jitsu, we're gonna dominate in that ring. With my moves and grooves and her Brazilian jiu-jitsu, we'd make an amazing tag team in that ring. I got jacked up, moving and grooving as I always do.
Thank you for listening to the WPN's Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling. If you have questions or comments, please contact us via our Facebook or our YouTube channel at the Women's Pro Wrestling Network. If you're new to the WPN, feel free to subscribe to our channel and like our page. We appreciate your support. Thank you again for listening.